Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's talk about Salesforce Data 360. You've probably heard it's this amazing platform for getting that perfect 360-degree view of your customer, but here's the thing, deploying it can be a real headache. So today, we're going to unpack the good, the bad, and how you can actually get smart about it. You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It's like that old Clint Eastwood movie, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And honestly, that's the perfect way to look at Data 360. So let's start with the good. What's the big promise here? Why even bother? So, first up, the whole reason this platform exists, the promise of a unified view. This is the holy grail everyone's been chasing for years. Okay, so what is Data 360, really? You might know it by its old name, Data Cloud. The simplest way to think about it is as this central brain that sits right next to your main Salesforce CRM. Its whole reason for being is to reach out, grab all your customer data from everywhere, and then process and unify it. The end goal? To create one single golden record for each and every customer. And this is where it gets really powerful. A real-world example makes this super clear. One of our experts was talking about how he's been buying tires from the same company for like 20 years. I mean, think about it. Over 2 decades, he's had different addresses, different phone numbers, probably a few different email accounts. To that company's system, he looks like 3, 4, maybe 5 different people. Data 360 is the magic that looks at all that and goes, wait a second, this is all the same Steve Simpson. That's the problem it's built to solve. And that is the whole shebang right there. You see this diagram? It's showing how Data 360 acts like this central hub. It plugs into your core Salesforce orgs, your marketing cloud, your B2C commerce site, and it doesn't stop there. It can even connect to external systems like Amazon S3 or Snowflake. It just ingests all of that data to build that one single source of truth, that unified individual. Okay, so that's the good. Now, let's get into the bad. This is what we're calling the deployment disconnect. Because, and this is important, this is not your average Salesforce. So this is absolutely crucial to understand. In your day-to-day Salesforce world, your Sales Cloud, your Service Cloud, you live inside what's called an org, right? Everything parties together in there. But Data 360, it doesn't live in the org. It lives adjacent to it in something called an instance. And this one little change in terminology, org versus instance, well, it changes everything about how you deploy your code and configuration. So if it's not core Salesforce, how in the world are you supposed to deploy to it? That question, well, that's what leads us to the next part of the story. And this is where things start to get, well, let's just call it the ugly. Yeah, this is the data kit conundrum. We're talking about the ugly truth of deployment. Salesforce had to invent this whole new mechanism just for Data 360, and it's interesting. So their solution is something called a data kit. The best analogy is to think of it like a shipping pallet. You can't just send one little box. No, first you have to create the pallet, this data kit, then you load all your components onto it. Step 2, you transport that entire pallet using the metadata API or change sets. And then, step 3, when it gets to its destination, you have to run another process to actually deploy it. It's this whole 3-step dance you have to do every single time. But here's the kicker. This pallet, this data kit, it's monolithic. It's an all-or-nothing deal. It just grabs everything. And this monolithic problem? Oh boy, it creates some major headaches. First, there's zero granularity. Let's say you have an object with 50 fields, and your developer just changes one of them. Too bad, you have to deploy the entire object with all 50 fields. This leads to developer contention, right? You've got multiple people trying to work in parallel, and they're constantly at risk of overwriting each other's work. And the biggest problem? The blast radius is huge. A single deployment can pull in old stuff, new stuff, half-finished stuff, and you end up with all these unintended consequences. It's just messy. So because of all that ugliness, you can't just wing it. You really have to get smart and strategic about how you set things up. This is all about navigating the pipeline. And that strategy starts with understanding some new vocabulary. You're going to have what's called a home org. Think of this as the command and control center. It's the primary Salesforce org that's in charge of the Data 360 instance. Then you have your companion orgs. These are all the other orgs that are feeding data into and getting data from Data 360. So what does this mean for your pipeline? Well, it means you have to be really deliberate. You might have a setup like this, where Team A is actively working on Data 360 features, so their dev sandbox has a Data 360 tenant turned on. But maybe Team B is just working on regular Sales Cloud stuff. For them, you keep the tenant turned off. You have to strategically decide which sandboxes in your pipeline, from dev all the way to UAT and prod, actually have a Data 360 instance connected to them. And I know what you're thinking. Why not just turn it on everywhere? Wouldn't that be simpler?
And that's a great question. But the answer, and this is a big one, comes down to a single word: credits.
See, we're not in the fixed cost world of Salesforce Core anymore. Data 360 runs on a consumption model. Every single thing you do, every process, every data job eats up credits. And if you have an inefficient process, or say a developer runs a bad load test in a lower environment, you can literally burn through your entire production budget by accident. We're talking about a mistake that could cause a 5x budget overage. It's a huge financial risk. Okay, so we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. With all these challenges, you might be feeling a little discouraged. But don't worry, there is a solution. Let's look at a path to simpler deployments. The future really is smarter. And that smarter path really lies in specialized tooling that's being built specifically to handle this mess. Instead of a developer manually wrestling with data kits, these tools can automate that entire tricky process. What used to be a long, manual, and super error-prone task can now be done with just a few clicks. We're talking smarter, safer, and way, way faster deployments. And this all leads to the holy grail, the ultimate goal, which is this idea of dynamic data kits. Just imagine this for a second. Instead of that monolithic palette, what if you could just pick the exact components you want to move? The system would then create a data kit just for those items on demand. It would be totally granular. Then, after the deployment, the kit is just discarded. It's disposable. No clutter. And the whole thing is completely automated. No more humans clicking around hoping they got it right. So, what if the entire deployment process could be made invisible? I mean, really think about that. Taking this incredibly complex, multi-step, high-risk process and making it so seamless, so automated, that your developers don't even have to think about it anymore. It just works. That is the future, and that's the real key to mastering Salesforce Data 360.